The Irishman is the newest film from the legendary film director Martin Scorsese, and it follows a man named Frank Sheeran, a truck driver and World War II veteran who becomes a hitman for the Mafia, and becomes involved with mobster Russell Bufalino and his crime family. The film also shows Frank's time working with labor union leader Jimmy Hoffa, and the circumstances surrounding his disappearance. I was incredibly excited to see The Irishman for the same reasons that most people were excited to see this film, which are it's a crime drama directed by Martin Scorsese that has Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Joe Pesci in it. I was, however, a little disappointed this film would release straight to Netflix and not get a wide theatrical distribution, since I think the experience of seeing a film of this caliber on the big screen would have been something special. Luckily, I got the chance to see it on the big screen a few days ago, and I must say that it was totally worth it. The strongest aspect of The Irishman is by far the performances. Robert De Niro is absolutely incredible in this film as Frank Sheeran, and I think this is easily the best performance he has given in a movie in years. He gives a nuanced and subtle performance, but is also charismatic and intense in all the right moments. De Niro's performance in this film is easily in the top 5 for best performances in any Martin Scorsese movie ever. I really hope he wins the Oscar for Best Actor, but I think we all know that Joaquin Phoenix will more than likely win it. Joe Pesci is also magnificent in this film as Russell Bufalino, and for this being his first movie in forever, he hasn't lost a single step. If you're looking for the quick-tempered and foul-mouthed Pesci that's in Goodfellas and Casino, you won't find that in this film. Instead, Pesci gives a more subdued and calm performance than usual, but is super intimidating and is the definition of cold and calculating. If Pesci stays in retirement after this film, this would be one of the greatest swan songs of all time. Al Pacino also delivers in this film as Jimmy Hoffa and gives the best performance of his in a long time. He brings his trademark loud and bombastic approach to many scenes, but he also manages to be really funny, and like De Niro and Pesci, subtle in many parts of the film. Other actors like Harvey Keitel, Ray Romano, and Bobby Cannavale bring their A-game as well, even with the limited screen time they have compared to De Niro, Pesci, and Pacino. Martin Scorsese's direction as usual is superb, and I really enjoyed the way that he approached this film. This film has been compared a lot to Goodfellas, which is understandable since they're both crime epics, but there's one major difference with how Scorsese approached that film and this one. With Goodfellas, it feels very fast-paced and hyperactive to reflect the film's themes of excess and masculinity. With The Irishman, it's slower, more meditative, to reflect the themes of age and time. There are many quiet moments in the film, and it really takes its time to dissect what the main characters are feeling and going through. Sure, this film still contains the trademark Scorsese violence and swearing that we're all so accustomed to and love, but it feels so restrained compared to other films in his expansive filmography. Scorsese handles it in a way that shows how mature and wise he has grown over the years, and I really admire him for that. Martin Scorsese has always been a filmmaker who tells interesting stories with a lot of originality to the way they're approached, and this film continues to showcase that talent of his. The cinematography in this film is fantastic. The framing of the shots is just about perfect. There are some really impressive one-takes featured throughout. The editing by Thelma Schoonmaker is nothing short of masterful. This film is edited to perfection, and I love how the editing style makes the film go by fast, yet also feel like it goes on for an eternity. It perfectly makes the viewer feel like they've aged alongside Frank, if that makes any sense. The score and soundtrack to the film are terrific as well, and like in previous Scorsese films, the music is used at all the right times and is also used to enhance the narrative. The production design in The Irishman is also top-notch. It does a really good job of evoking the different time periods the film is set in. I also have to give major props to the de-aging effects in this film because it is utterly fantastic. One of my concerns going into this film was that the de-aging effects would be distracting, since that's usually how it tends to be in other movies I've seen, but I didn't even notice it after a few scenes. It actually got to the point where I couldn't tell whether the actors were de-aged, or that's the way they actually look in real life, because the de-aging was just that impressive. Overall, The Irishman is nothing short of a cinematic masterpiece. I think everyone expected it to be a great movie, but it still blew my expectations out of the water. Everything about this film worked so well, and for being a 3.5-hour movie, every minute of this film is engaging, and never once does it get boring. I'll be honest in saying that The Irishman probably wouldn't have worked as well as it did without that runtime, since it spends so much time developing the characters in the story. When something really insane happens, it leaves a big impact on the viewer. I've seen some people come up with ways to watch this movie as a mini-series, but if you go in knowing that this is going to be an incredibly long movie, I think you'll more than likely manage to get through it in one sitting. Also, I think watching it as a mini-series instead of the way Martin Scorsese intended is a little disrespectful to him, since he put in so much hard work and effort into this film. The Irishman proves why Martin Scorsese is not only the king of crime films, but is one of the best directors of all time. I still can't believe a film that stars Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Al Pacino that is directed by Martin Scorsese exists. I'm glad it does, because it's not only one of the best films of Martin Scorsese's career, but one of the best of the entire year. I am of course giving this film my highest grade of approval, which is an A+.